All right, so now let's get to some animated stuff. Right,
Yes.
we have three animated shows we're going to talk about. Right, in your case, you're going to talk about Amazon Prime's Invincible. This was a superhero show, well, a mature superhero series based off of a comic book that I have yet to read, and I kind of want to read it because of how impressive that first trailer was. But the first three episodes came out. Pretty much waited for the series to come to an end, and I'll just run through all of them. But yeah, you saw the first three, so take it away. What was it about, and how
Right.
did you feel?
So at face value, you'd want to think is you know, the let us call it you probably want to feel is basically animated version of the boys, right? But that's not exactly what's going on. But you can understand why somebody might think that, right? And basically, it's a Justice League type world in a
Uh huh.
similar vein to the boys. You meet the quote unquote Justice League of this world. However, what you learn is that he you have a kind of whole working paradigm of power, and then the big reveal is, well, what if Superman was secretly evil, right? So there's a
Oh,
big conceit. So they reveal it early in the storyline, right? Why that the quote unquote Superman character, a man called Omni-Man, played by J.K. Simmons. Um, you're wondering why he's evil now, but
mm-hmm.
because they reveal early he is evil, but you're wondering why, right? You don't know why. It's a big mystery. That's it. So it's basically about Stephen Yeun's character. I forget the name. Jacob, I want to say, or Jason.
Let me pull it up.
Just pull it up because
Mark Grayson.
Mark Grayson. Grayson, I was thinking of, right? Yeah. So he is the son of the Omni Man character, right? He doesn't have his powers, and they reveal early on that he had to get his powers, but they set it up as if it's this big like issue now. Like why does he can't get powers? He getting it too late. There's a whole story like what going on here? Why does he don't have his powers? Blah blah blah. And that is basically it. But then the end of the first episode opens up the whole paradigm of what the fuck going on, and it's like, oh, okay, this kind of weird. And but it's not something too mind blowing. And the question is, what going on? And they keep revealing people who evil. So Mark goes to high school. He have a best friend. He's sticking up for people who he think is the underdog, even though he had no powers in the first episode. And then when he was working at his scrappy little thing job, taking out the garbage, he accidentally throws the um throws the garbage bag in space, and he reveals that his
Wow.
dad. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just this with a whole paradigm of superpowers, super people. But the end of the first episode really like drops a bomb on you like emotionally, you know? And it's like, all right, what's going on here? And that's the whole thing. It's setting up this weird mystery. As it is in terms of story, I don't think the pacing all that good. Personally, I'm not a fan of the pacing. It's good, but it's not brilliant. It's like, it's all right, it's fine.
All right. Well, the
Um,
one thing I was a little intrigued by was the runtime though.
right.
Each episode clocking
Each
in
episode about
about
Yeah, but I'll, I'll
40
say
minutes.
I'll say the pacing kind of slow. They could cut a lot from it. It's a little on the slow end. Like the purpose of it, I, I get the purpose of it. It's supposed to be setting up a the character and thing, but much of that stuff just kind of boring. It's just like it normal, but then it have a big mystery lingering behind the scenes, right, involving certain characters, and it's like, all right.
Uh,
So how I'll compare it to is kind of like what Mass Effect. It's kind of like the Mass Effect of superheroes. It's doing something typical, but like they clearly having a big twist to the big story now. And
oh,
well,
okay.
the big conceit too is that um you know why it is that as this certain character doing a thing that he shouldn't necessarily be doing. That is a big mystery, right?
Right.
And I don't want to spoil it, but when you see the first episode, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about,
Mm.
right? You'll know exactly what it is I'm saying or referencing. Because it's like, yeah, that real weird though. Like, what was the big mystery? Why? The answer is the why. Like, we know he's doing something, but the big mystery is the why. Why is he doing this thing? And I just kind of confused at that whole thing. That's where it's interesting. It doing all the typical superhero shit, until this one character comes in and then be like, oh shit, that's going on. And then the end of the third episode does another big reveal. And like, all right, why this character doing what they do? So yeah, as the creator of The Walking Dead, he make it like, all right. Art style and thing, it looks a lot like Young Justice.
Yeah, I was picking up on that Young Justice look and feel. Well, just to cut you there for a bit, right? You were mentioning the boys. I was more thinking of it something like a kick-ass in a sense, like just this kid who wants to be a
Well,
hero and now he's seeing
nah,
the dark reality of
nah,
things.
it's not Kick-Ass. It's really comparable to The Boys, mostly because of the character. You'll know who he is when you see him, but it's a different paradigm of why he is the way he is, right? And that's my whole thing about
Right.
Akabi. I had nothing else to say about it other than it's basically that aspect of it.
Mm. But it's worth it, right? Like, well, I mean, sorry, what I say worth it? It's promising thus far. You like the direction going, or it's just
That's
like,
the thing.
well, they still need to do more.
I'm not particularly impressed with it, to be honest, because of that twist. As I said, the analogy is like Mass Effect now. Like that's the closest thing after an analogy.
Right.
It good, but I'm so not like I'm not impressed by the whole thing. It only have that one thing going for it as the twist now.
Right.
Like, all right, that's the only mystery that holding your own. As I said, the analogy is Mass Effect. Imagine if Mass Effect didn't have its big twist. That kind of just kind of forget it. Everything forgettable about it. Like all these characters, we see it before. We see this before. We see that before. It have a typical arc. Everybody who cheating. It not that subversive. It much like with the boys, it feels a little outdated.
Right.
Trying to be edgy and violent and
Well,
whatever.
that's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
Violence, because they was real like amping up the violence or trying to let people know this is gonna be TVME shit, right? So is it like boys level, oh my god, you're laughing at how over the top it is, or just like see this in a DC animated show somewhere?
Yeah, that's the problem, is that if it wasn't for the big mystery, I've seen this kind of deconstruction for superheroes done better now. So that's why I'm not like particularly impressed with any anything, not yet. Because I really want to see what they're gonna do with it. And that's it. I can't really complain about any of it as it is, because it's not doing anything that interesting.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's kind of a bummer. Well, I guess
As I said,
with that being said, I might as well just wait until it wraps up the season and then just watch everything out.
No, as I say, wait till wait till wait till it gets its end. And I suppose because the whole thing is rest on this mystery now of why this person doing what they're doing, because it's still not clear to me why this person doing what they're doing, right? I really unclear as like, wait, what going on? What was the answer? And they obviously like laying they obviously laying little what's call it, laying little breadcrumbs as to why he was doing, right? Little foreshadowing, but not special, right? It's like, okay, right, doing this, all right, no problem. Like see what's going on.
Right. Okay. Well, since it's just 3 episodes, there's no need for any like rating or anything like that. But I'll make a note to actually, not even make a note. Yeah, I will check it out as soon as the season wraps up. Well, just based off of what to say, I'm not expecting this thing to just change the landscape of superhero shows like the boys, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what it is they do. So yeah, when that time comes, I'll check it out and we could do a full review of it, right? Right. So moving on now, let's move from Amazon to Netflix now. Let's talk about Dota, Dragon's Blood, right? So here's the thing, right? This little confession here. I not that I am not that well versed in all things Dota, right? Or Dota 2, which is
me neither.
Based on.
The thing is, okay, so I never got into MOBAs. In the 2000s.
Same here. Yeah.
It's one of those things I just never got into. They never interest me. They always it's the kind of gameplay that just was kind of boring for me. So I could understand why somebody might be into it, but for me it was just never that interesting. So I never got into the MOBA paradigm as it is now. Never got into.
Yeah, well, same here too. Same here. But
right. So all I knew is that, like, I know Dota was just what Dota was, boy. Dota is basically This thing is basically a mod for Warcraft 3. That is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
it is.
well, I mean, I used to play Warcraft 3, not religiously like some people, but when it come out, I used to play it. But I was like, wait,
Right.
Dota? What's Dota? You know what I mean? But you always used to hear that. You always used to hear oh, Dota, Dota, Dota. You know what I mean? But what I kind of learned after the fact though is how big Dota 2 become, and
Right.
maybe you could answer this for me, right? Or you could kind of query it, right? It being one of the most one of the greatest games of all time and most
Well,
renowned in tournaments and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
Well,
all right,
it is. It
well,
is. It is.
okay.
Okay. It is probably the deepest of the MOBAs. I'll say if anything, like I suppose. But again, I never get into to MOBAs to know one
Right.
way or the other.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing, the esports scene that blew
Right.
out of it, though, like even all that, I was like, all right, well, okay. It just never clicked with me for some reason, though. Like just offer me seen as one of the greatest games of all time. I should check it out, like now, but I don't know. I just never had a reason to, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, go on.
Yeah. That's pretty much the situation. Like it was never something that I was particularly impressed with as it is. Um, it's one of those things that just was this is just daily in the cultural milieu. I know it's popular amongst gamers, but I'm not one of those that was like a fan as it is. And I just we're gonna talk about why a lot of it doesn't work because you know we get it. Like I get why it was the way it was at the time. So that's it.
Yeah.
It not bad. I just never got into it.
Yeah. Same
Um,
here. Same here. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, the problem is, and we're going to talk about this thing as it is, which is it kind of suffered the same. Well, let's talk about the show itself. In my opinion, it's suffering from the same problem that the Warcraft movie suffered from, right? Which
Oh,
is
oh,
it,
you find so? Okay, okay.
yeah, it too loyal to its lore now.
Right, right, right. All right. Well, I will just do the a quick synopsis on this, right, and then I'll jump into my thoughts, right. More or less, my thoughts will match yours, right? But anyway, so yeah, it's set in the world of Dota, actually, or Dota. Sorry, Dota. My bad. Um, it's this fantasy world basically. So you get knights, but basically they're stressing on dragons, right? And that's just to break off from the synopsis for a bit, right? There's this intro way which
Yeah, real typical though.
tries to tell you everything or like
Yeah,
all the big lore stuff, right? And I only like halfway, or I should say near the end of me binging this, because yeah, I've been through this, right? I
yeah,
went back to that intro. I was like, but wait, none of this
but,
stuff ever really show back up
yeah.
though.
What? No, yeah, exactly. That's the problem with this kind of bullshit now. Is telling you a set of lore crap that you
Yeah,
think
but it
important and
sounds real
not.
good. I wouldn't lie though. It sounds so majestic, like well, these back in the eons and
It's same.
the gods and all that kind of stuff. But it's
That's
like,
the
wait,
problem.
none of this stuff really come back complete on though.
No,
Well,
that's the
except
problem.
for one character, which I'll get to. But
No,
everything else is just
yeah,
all
but that's the
this,
problem.
you
Yeah.
know.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
go on.
That's the problem with a lot of this law nonsense is that it is getting to its own ass and just do explain nothing in any interesting way. You're not connected to anything. It's just like, oh well, the this and the this and there's a bunch of fantasy words that interchangeable fantasy words that not interesting doesn't work at all for you. Not that yeah, that's kind of boring to be honest. And again, it had the same problem with Warcraft had, which is yeah, you could have tell a more interesting story somewhere else, but this wasn't it. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I couldn't get into this at all. Um
Well, all right.
I
When
could
I
not
get
get
to my point, right? Yeah. So basically, we introduced to dragon knights, right? So they are knights who hunt and kill dragons, right? So we introduced to one. He's the protagonist. His name is Davion, right?
yeah,
His whole thing for killing dragons is because as a boy, he saw his whole family got killed by dragons, and of course, as you'd expect, there's different classes of dragons and all that kind of stuff, right? So he's part of this. I was gonna say club for a bit, this this band basically of dragon knights, right? So yeah, it's not just random guys walking around with big ass swords doing it. It's a group, right? Not a cult, but it's a group, right? And we introduced to him basically trying to track this big dragon, right? He has his page, I think that's what you call him, his page with him, who
yeah.
he's there in the first episode and then the last, which kind of was weird because I thought he was just going to be in the show a lot, but he isn't, unfortunately. But yeah, but there's this guy who's helping him out though. This burly guy with a sword too. But then we learn that the sword itself is something called Terrorblade, right? And then we learn, and this is what they actually. This was, I guess, was the point of the intro, that Terrorblade is like one of this, like this demon, but they kind of assume, they kind of paint it as, oh well, when the earth was formed and blah 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 blah, and some gods and bad blah blah blah, and he was just one of them, right? But anyway, so he ends up possessing that guy, and
Right.
while Davian in this pit trying to find
Well,
the particular
yeah,
dragon, there's
the
this
end.
other one that's pretty much there, who his name is Slyrak, right?
Right.
And he is one of the Eldworms, or whatever they call it, right? Sorry, forgive us, we don't know Dota, right? And he's voiced by Tony Todd. They're like, what? You with this? Okay,
Yeah.
again, Netflix money. Okay, cool. But yeah, in the process now, terribly reveals himself and um, possesses Slyrak, right? So, sorry, possesses the dragon that
Yeah.
Davia was supposed to slay, right? So Slyrak kills him, and then in the process, Davian gets killed, right?
Yeah.
And Slyrak sees this as an opportunity, so he ends up possessing him. So his dragon spirit thing ends up possessing Davian, right? So throughout the show, he is kind of wrestling with the fact that yes, he is a dragon. If pushed, it's not like a Hulk thing, but if Slyrak sees a reason for him to kind of come out, he does, right? So he does this kind of cool Hulk transformation stuff. He actually wipes people out in brutal anime glory, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's typical anime stuff, you know what I mean? How people get split in half, all that kind of stuff it works, right?
Right.
Um, in the process, though, you have Princess Mirana, who
Right.
is this princess, and she's part of this place called the Night Silver Woods. And there's this race of elves, and there's this war that's going on because the elf goddess basically does that, like the fact that there's like the elves being in factions basically, and they
Right.
all should worship her, and she have this hang up of being worshipped and being loved, and she just kind of plants this seed of like deception and hate basically. So it has this war going on, right? But in the process now, Miranda kind of wants to stay out of it. But what happens is that there's these magic lotuses that are stolen.
Yes. You
We
see.
actually see who the character is who steals it. But so her and her page as well too, well, is actually her bodyguard. Her name is Marcy. She's a mute actually. So while all this is going on, she runs into Davion, actually sees his life actually, and yeah, together the quest basically is just to find those lotuses, and while Davian is dealing with this whole dragon thing, and of course this whole war that's going on with elves and the goddess herself. And this one last character I want to bring up, there's this character called the Invoker, right, who is an elf as well. I think he's a sage or something like that, right?
Yeah.
He used to be with the goddess herself. Right, her name is Luna. I keep forgetting it, right? So no, no, no. Sorry, I lied. Her name is Selemene, right? Goddess of
Yes.
the
Right.
moon.
Right.
That's her
Right.
name,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
No, the thing is, the first episode was kind of cool when he revealed that he gets killed. I was like, oh shit, he
Yeah,
dead. That was
yeah.
like
That
shocking.
that, that caught me. That really
Yeah,
really
that
caught
catch
me
you off
when
guard.
David got killed, right? So
Yeah.
that's to wrap up everything, right? So yeah, but yeah, basically Invoker was the husband somewhat of Selemene because he had a daughter, but because the daughter died due to an illness, that's where the whole hang up comes in.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically Solemne visits this elf warrior named Luna, and she's going out on this quest, this bloody quest, basically just to kind of bring the elves back into check, basically for Solemne, right? And yeah, that's where we'll stop with this, right? So so that's quick. Well, this I wanted to mention this before we get to your thoughts, Ricardo, right? So what I would say with this show here, because I went in not knowing a single thing about the world, I
Right.
will say this much though. It at least hammer interested a little bit more into the world. Like I want to learn more about this world. I don't know if it means that I don't think it means that I have to play the games though. But I would say that this is a fascinating world. It's very familiar. I mean, if you saw stuff like it's like a bit of Lord of the Rings, a bit of Castlevania, a bit of
Right.
Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But it's a really fascinating world though. But I just wish that they could have connected it to that really over glorified intro we got,
A little
which
better.
was just all this, just basically to say, hey, Terribly is a bad guy. This is why, right? But yeah, this is still a very unique. I want to say unique, but it's still a fascinating world though, and where they go, especially like with the stuff with the Elworms, the eight is basically eight dragons. Like I was just really liking that, really loving that stuff actually halfway into it though, and the stuff with the elves, and just as I say, the world itself is quite fascinating to me. Right? It's just me going in, sorry, not knowing a single thing about the characters of the game or the world itself. But I have a feeling though, before I get to your thoughts quickly, Ricardo, I feel that fans will go into this and pretty much come out the same way they felt when they saw the Warcraft movie, where
Right.
they come in knowing all the lore, all the knowledge, everything. But it's like, yeah, but what's this? Because this really
It's
feels like this is just a small
it's too
piece
much.
of
It's
this
too much of a.
big world, Dread.
It's too
Like
much
it
of a
feels like it's
slave.
just the beginning
Yeah,
of
no, it's too
something
much.
bigger now.
Yeah, no, this whole thing I find is too much of a slave of its own material.
Right.
That
Well,
yeah,
well,
that
yeah, you
that
could go on and talk now. Go on.
yeah, no, it's way too much of a slave to its own material, in my opinion. Like that's why it don't work at all. I really don't think it works, to be honest. I can't say I hate it. It's just it just bogged down in its own bullshit. Like, and I'm not caring or following any of this because it's just a bunch of fantasy words.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like throughout it, I was just looking at the basics. It's knight with sword who is possessed by dragon spirit, has to do task, right? But yeah, when they do try to expand it a little bit more, when they bring in the stuff with the elves, like I was kind of geared though, but I still feel like once again, if I went in knowing all this stuff before, I'd understand everything now. So because I'm not expecting the show to stop and explain things to me, but there's numerous moments, especially involving Invoker himself and his these flashbacks that he has, where it's like, but I still don't understand what's going on. Jay. There's a moment where um basically it kind of ties back to that same intro we keep making fun of, and they never get back to it. It's is where he is this thing where he took this gem or something like that, and there's this um being that he's trying to conjure up some kind of weird thing near the end of the season, you know what I mean? So it's a lot, but that's not where you're coming from though.
Yeah.
But just to get it good out of the way though, I think that the voice acting is solid enough.
Yeah.
Took a while for me to get into because once again it's anime characters basically talking American and British, so it's that even threw a little Irish with Truba off guard. I was like, well, we
Yeah.
have
That's
Irish characters in this too.
the moon
Yeah,
goddess. Yeah,
the
it's
moon god is talking
very,
Irish.
very
Luna
Gaelic.
talk. Yeah, Luna talking Gaelic as well. Like what? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, basic American voices and stuff like that. I felt like the character designs kind of basic too, especially Davion.
Yeah.
Uh, also just a little minor nitpick. I felt like like in anime, right? Like when you're trying to show when you're trying to detail a character's face, right? The simplest way is to put a shadow by the side of someone's nose.
Yeah.
They literally had no shadow dread, so you just had a line. I was
Yeah.
just
Good point.
watching like everybody had that same line, just they couldn't have just sheet it, like
Yeah. They,
it's one of
they,
those things.
yeah. It's one of those.
Yeah, and a little nitpick, in the first episode in particular, where but it's, I mean, it's a trope. They always do it. They will always have like these cutaways or just transition scenes where it's just one static shot of activity going on. And sometimes, like when you have characters like in a room, like you have the two main one talking, and you would just have other characters. It's basically still like the frame itself now. You know what I mean? It's still. I just think it. You could just add a little movement in the back or something. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
once again, cutting corners. Understand? It's anime, right? I understand. I understand. Yeah, but I thought that animation wise, it was actually pretty solid though.
Yeah.
There's a really cool shot though with what's her face with Mirana, Marcy, and they have this giant cat, what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And it's just them basically running down this mountain dread while Deviant, who
Right.
becomes
Cursey.
Slyrak, is like trying to kill them now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, they spend all their money on that, boy, because they incorporate some
But
CG in terms of
it look.
the running and stuff. Like, oh, they spend all their money, boy. Okay.
Yeah. No.
The
It
first
look.
episode, I was like, all their real holding back all your funds, like what going on?
Yeah.
How come
Yeah.
all they didn't spend all your money? But then in that scene, like, oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah. No. It
I
looked good. You know. it
Yeah,
looked good. It looked good. I'm not complaining about the look or anything like that. I ain't had a big problem with any of that. I'm just
right.
I just underwhelmed with the whole thing as it is. It's like, oh, we're really doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But as I said before, though, I imagine a lot of Dota 2 fans will go into this and kind of walk out a little disappointed. They might feel this is
I
like,
have no idea.
Warcraft, where it's just all this kind of build up and stuff that we already know. So, cause like for the life of me, I was wondering, like while I was watching, it's like, is this part of the lore itself, or is just a story that they make in that world, in that world of Dota 2? That was how I interpreted it, as just a story that they invent for the show. But still, when you're bringing all these characters and all these backstories, all these things, I feel like no, this is already part of it, and I'm supposed to know this because I'm supposed to have played the game prior to watching the show. Now, you know what I mean? So it kind of, it kind of had me a little, it kind of threw me off like that now, and even when the story itself ends, I was like, okay, this is where they're gonna end it. I kind of like it, but still a little underwhelming because it literally stops at a cliffhanger. Now, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, though, this is a show that I really really wanted to like just flat out like enjoy and love though. But yeah, it kind of just got bogged down for me because of just this effort in trying to flesh this world out, which I mean I appreciate, but at the same time it's like still I am going into this completely blind. I don't know anything about these characters.
Right.
Try that. I'm not saying dumb down the material and make it simple for me, but give us the details early on though, and not stuff that don't really matter the end of the day, like that intro. So
Right.
when things play out, it makes much more sense. Case
Right.
in point, stuff involving Solemnity, right? Who I get, okay, she's a villain and she had issues and she have delusions of grandeur, so they do the whole gods thing. And speaking of gods though, um, yeah, well, I'll get to the whole gods thing in a bit, right? But yeah, they do the whole she's a vain goddess kind of thing
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But it's like still to the point of you basically tell this person, hey, start a war, and then come back later and say, hey, I didn't tell you to start a war, though. You know what I mean? it,
Right.
it just don't make sense. Like this her doing what she's doing didn't make any sense to me at all. Even right down to Luna blindly following orders and just killing people just because just didn't make sense to me, right? So now for the God thing. This show to me is yet another um Netflix anime series similar to stuff like Castlevania and well we talked about this last year, Blood of Zeus, right?
Right.
This and okay, like I don't want to dump any show for this too, but it's this kind of I don't want to say also that it's influenced by Game of Thrones, but in a way it is though
Yeah.
this sort
But
of
that's
cynical
yeah,
take
yeah.
on subject matter, like
That's the problem. Everything is this deconstruction of medieval time shit.
exactly,
Like
yeah,
against I so let me tell you something, I'm real tired of that, to be honest. Game of Thrones did it because they have a great writer behind it. I mean, the showrunner shit the bed on that whole thing, but I
yeah,
know it's fault.
you
Um,
know,
but I just so sick of this, and I personally bought it. Look, if you like it, it's fine. But I get so tired of this nonsense. And because it just coming across as mediocre and forgettable. No? After a while, it's like,
yeah.
all right, that I mean, look, it's not a itch I ever cared to see scratch now. So it's like whatever. Um, if you like it, fine, great. But for me, boring.
Yeah, well, I agree with it because I mean Castlevania did it, but Castlevania being
Had a charm to it.
horror based, being
Right.
I understand. Okay, cool, right?
Okay,
But
so here's a big
but
problem with this too, is that because the Warcraft Dota franchise don't really fit with the dark fantasy particularly well. Like if this was Diablo or if it was again Castlevania and it works with
mhm,
the dark gothic fantasy, it's fine. But this trying to do the dark fantasy, but not really, and it's not balancing tonally particularly well for me. Um,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, right. That's the thing, right? Because like with Blood of Zeus now, like one thing I remember complaining about was that yeah, they try that same dark, cynical tone on this story that is clearly being inspired by stuff like Clashing Titans and those kind of 80s fantasy shows. And I was like, well, sorry, fantasy movies. I was like, well, why not
Right.
just embrace the fun in it, right? Instead of
Yeah.
trying to make everything so super serious now? This one, the show here doesn't entirely go super serious though. But at points you're just like, well, you're just really trying to be like another Castlevania. Though. So I don't know if
Right.
it's just like a decision behind the scenes, like, oh well, when it comes to Netflix anime, especially stuff with fantasy, everything have to be dark and cynical. We have to treat
Yeah.
the
To be
antagonists have to be, so jaded by everything. You know what I
right.
mean? All
No,
these
to
kind of
be
things. It's like, but why though? Like we already had that with Castlevania though. Like why?
no, and to be fair, I don't blame it on the writing per se because I think the voice acting not particularly good. Like some of the main voice acting. So it's not really delivering the landing. Like it's supposed to be cynical guy telling jokes, dark gallows humor about the world, and it
Oh,
just lands
speaking of
that
that,
short. Yeah,
speaking of that, though, that's how I felt with Davion's character,
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
he's
You
just being that, oh
weak.
hey, okay, I'm doing this, all right, oh
Yeah,
big
yeah,
monster, okay, and
yeah.
we saw this before with
Thank you.
Castlevania, though, yeah.
Right, that's the problem. Too similar. Too derivative. Too derivative, and it just wasn't working in my opinion. It's not bad. I don't think it that bad. It's still well made, but I felt because one of the big mistakes with this bullshit is that you can't get into a law that nobody care about and then have it introduce something that nobody care about. So Dota, because video games and almost let's admit it, almost all video games, especially fantasy video games, is some derivative bullshit. Um, and not really bring anything new or interesting unless you don't know the original material. I can't really get into it as it is, then it have no point making the case as it is going forward now. So that's why it has the whole thing just kind of fall flat and nobody care about the world building because we see it before. Right? Sorry to say it. We've
Yeah,
seen it
yeah,
before.
and you're right though. Just before we get to read it, it does feel way too derivative though.
Yeah. Don't
Even
flat.
right down to the elves and the stuff that was going on there, to the god stuff. Because yeah, like we just mentioned, Blood of Zeus. Like we saw stuff like that before. You know? So yeah, I would admit though, yes, there were moments where I was like, okay, but this thing gonna do anything new? And I guess the kind of new thing, but that not even new itself, is the whole idea of the hero being possessed by this thing. But yeah,
Right.
even that itself is not
I thought they would do
new.
something
But
with that.
you
Yeah.
know,
But yeah.
yeah. But I wouldn't lie though, I really love that world of the eight dragons thing. Which also is not original, but still I was like, but this real cool. I loving the character designs there. Like yeah, the character designs for the dragons though on point. I just thought like the whole episode could have been there, you know what I mean? But I mean out of it you get some decent action and some decent moments here or there though. But once again, it's just yet another fantasy world that is supposed to care about, but I kind of don't. So that's why I keep stressing on. I don't know. I don't even know if the fans will even like this because yeah, I still have a feeling that this is just a story that's part of this much bigger world. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Warcraft movie, you know?
Right. No,
But
as I say, it suffers the more or less the same problem that the Warcraft movie suffered, which is it like itself too much. It up its own ass a little too much. Chill out. Like it just not working in that way. And that's the main problem with this. This one just give too much of a shit about its world building. And like, yeah, nobody care about this as the way you think it does though. Or need to chill out on that. And they did
yeah,
just you had to tell a more classic story. And whatever they do their thing. If people liked it, fine. I can imagine when I'm watching all these spells and powers, I assume that all of that is in the game. Like, oh, that's this ability in the game, and that's this
right,
ability in the game, or whatever it is. I just assume that. I don't know if that's the case. Well,
right. But yeah, I mean, if you are a fan of this, I would love if somebody could tell me if like these characters
right.
acting for the game or not, because I personally doubt it. I could be
But
wrong, right?
because if I remember correctly, the game relies on that whole, hero minions thing now. Like you have a main central character and you're playing with that person, and then you run it. That's the typical MOBA stuff, right? Like again, I never get into MOBA, but I've seen enough gaming to know what it's like or whatever it is, right? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But lastly, I'll say before I get to read it, though, what I would say though is that if you're like us who was just kind of hoping to see another season of Castlevania this year, because I don't think we get anything this year. If I'm not, I'm
I've no
more
idea.
likely not, right? But yeah,
I've mostly enjoyed the Castlevania stuff. Like it very little of it very little of it doesn't work. It flows really well. But I'll fully admit that the only reason I like Castlevania because I'm already familiar with the Castlevania material and franchise and the lore and what to look for.
hmm
Right?
yeah,
This I don't know it, so therefore I have a bias against it, unfortunately.
yeah,
I'm fully conceding that bias. If this caters to what people say it is in terms of what it should be, and it's good, then fine. If you're a fan of this, I'm sure you'd give it a good score. But for me to do the extra research to care, I have to care. So I'll have to go and scour the subreddit or see what people say about it in some forum. And I really don't care because I was just bored almost the entire time throughout the whole thing.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I
to be
was
honest.
I was I was entertained for the most part. Just be the stuff with This mostly stuff with Davion.
Right.
The stuff with Luna and the goddess of the moon and all that kind of stuff is like well, okay, all that stuff because you want to be loved, okay, right?
Yeah.
Which I feel there's more to it than what the show is showing here, right? But yeah,
Right.
other than that though, I see this just as a little substitute. Like if you just want that Castlevania fix, you get it here. But I'm still kind of wondering why, this is literally the third Netflix anime series, sorry, that we get in the same kind of dark, cynical fantasy take. Like
No,
I don't
listen. I
know
mean,
what's
no. Is that
if this is
easy?
a thing or what.
No, just like with medieval fantasy, all of the material is there. Like it's easy to get costumes and sets for this kind of bullshit. No, that's why nobody gonna sit down and make anything more ornate. And I'll admit, and I don't want to get into anything Eurocentric or systematic or anything like that. But the simple fact is that you have to build sets and you have to production design and it have a clear bias in terms of getting stuff off the ground. That's why we're not gonna see any Aztec or South American fantasy shit because like somebody had to design that and nobody gonna do it. All the castles already there in Europe and all of the thing already there and they could easily animate it and they could easily model it. That's where the bias lies. Like is that's why we see so much European fantasy stuff because like yeah, the sets done built. You
Yeah,
cut the
yeah,
corners.
yeah.
And,
Mm.
and and when you're shooting in Scotland, you get this with this way, how much half 50% off or whatever it is. The same thing with animation. A lot of animation is just super easy to do. The material already easy to do because the art style is already there and the material is already there and what you're referencing and the color scheme and everything done built up for it. Whatever. I'm tired.
Yeah.
This is one of the main reasons I'm so tired of European fantasy stuff. I don't hate it on its own, but it's too much.
I know, right?
We've been since Lord of the Rings. They've not stopped. They
Yeah,
have not
yeah.
stopped.
Yeah,
Ever.
I mean, even stuff like Blood of Zeus, which could have done something different, more
Yeah.
or less fall under those same
Same,
trappings. Yeah,
same
same
thing. Yeah.
trappings.
And that is another European because Greek mythology. So it's like, yeah,
Well, yeah,
that
yeah,
that,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
already well established. Yeah, how much times you have sets and things and the inspiration to pull it off.
Mhm.
Tired. I am
Yeah,
tired. Enough.
yeah. Well, at the end of the day, folks, for what it is, though, I am going with decent 3 out of 5. It's
Yeah.
alright for what it
I
is.
give it.
Yeah, if you have 4 or 5 hours to kill roughly, yeah, check it out, man. But I would say, I mean, if you just want that Castlevania fix, if you just want something in terms of like epic fantasy from Netflix, yeah, check it out, man. But I still think that if you are a diehard fan, well, I mean, if you're a diehard fan, you probably will like it. There's stuff in it that you will appreciate, though. But I don't think all the fans will go into this loving this at all, though. But I
Uh,
still think that this is just a small part of a big story, or just a story that is invent for the show. I could be wrong, but yeah, I know there's bigger stuff in it to look forward to, and I'm actually looking out for the next season. Well, yeah, as I say, it ends on a cliffhanger, but I'm looking forward for the next season, man. But just not in a hurry, though.
yeah, no,
But yeah,
I'm not hating on it on its own. As I said, it's well made. It's well made. I just tired of this in terms of the aesthetic and the approach. I just fed up, to be honest. But if you're into it, great. Happy for you. But I was thoroughly underwhelmed for it in that sense. However, I'll still give it a decent enough score. So like I give it like a 6.5 out of 10. It was fine. For what it was. I'm not too mad over the whole thing, to be honest.
yeah, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
All right, and last but not least, season 2
Yeah.
of Solar Opposites.
Right.
Ricardo, if you don't mind, I just wanted to do the synopsis for this. Well, for the
Right.
for the season.
Right.
But just quick thoughts on season 1. We covered it when it came out. We
Right.
we thoroughly enjoyed it. It well, I think we mentioned this before, but we can't help but compare it to Rick and Morty, right? Because it's
Right.
from Justin
Or same,
Roiland, right?
same
And
creator, yeah,
yeah,
same voice
same
actor.
creator, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of wondering if this is just if this could have just been like a spin-off of it, or if it's
Right,
just
right,
like
right.
like if it's its own thing basically, right? But what I would say though is that can actually rewatch the first season in preparation. It is very much its own thing, right? But it
Yeah.
still has that really dark humor, just that irreverence and all that kind of stuff. Do very over the top, very very insane, but just all these smart and just silly like sci-fi calls. It's even to the point that characters in the show say, we can't use our sci-fi for this. You know what I mean? Just making fun of the genre itself, and yeah, just everything about it, even right down to the intros for this. Yeah, I really love though. But I mean, I still would put Rick and Morty over this because of
Right.
just how you had to just use a little bit of brain, a little bit more brain power to be like, oh, that's what they go with that. You know what I mean? It's not one of those things that you just watch one episode and you just get everything one time, unless you just know everything about science and science fiction. But this one, with this show here, is more science fiction more than science in a way. But it's just like a lot of like side gags and just pop culture references and just goofy, silly humor that makes it work. But I find like Rick just is a little bit more on the intelligent side of things. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's not to say that Solar Opposites is a terrible show at all, right? But yeah, Ricardo, quick thoughts on season one and yeah, what season two is about.
Yeah, right. So season one I enjoyed as well. It didn't try what I liked about it, it didn't try to be Rick and Morty. It did its own thing in terms of humor.
Yeah, yeah,
I forget the
indeed.
name of the I forget the name of that comic. There's a comic that does that style of humor. It's a really popular web comic with aliens, and the whole joke is, oh, aliens interpreting things literally in this way, and look how they're misinterpreting, Earth culture, and then the whole point is to show how silly that thing is. A little piece of commentary one time, right? And they'll always make a joke, and that's it. Season two follows well with Terry and Corvo, and I forget the children name, but the Terry and Corvo
Oh,
and the rest of
oh
the family.
gosh, let's pull up the name. Jesse, that's Gil, and Yomilak, that's the boy.
Yeah, I mean, right.
Right.
So these four, they kind of continue the narrative, the whole danger of the, let's call it, the little creature that they have in the house.
The pupa.
Right, the people, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So this the people thing, that whole joke still going on, and then of course we have to mention we follow
The
up on
wall.
the follow right the follow up of World War One.
Yeah, we are World War One. I love
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it basically follow up on that piece of drama. And that's it this time. I'll say personally this season was weaker for me. I don't know if it's because
Okay.
the joke kind of got a little old, like the whole joke of them, changing up thing, but it still had a bunch of great and funny scenarios. I love there's one scenario that I absolutely had made stitches is the whole wood New York City thing, the forest New York City.
Yes.
That had me
Yes.
cracking up of how ridiculous that was, but it's so funny how they play that whole scenario play itself out there.
Yeah.
'Cause what
All I'll
was
say
funny?
is that there's some clever Martin Scorsese references though, but when they
Right.
went with it was just
That's
so
another thing.
hilarious. Man.
That's another thing with this season. It does a lot of movie references. Like it make references to Revenge of the Nerds and a bunch of 80s movies and shit like that. Though. I think okay, all of this kind of funny and clever on its own. For what it is. I I can't say I truly love this, to be honest, right? This season because it's not that it's bad, but it just kind of fall a little flat for me, to be honest. And I think it's simply because I see the jokes before. The jokes kind of get old, so I wasn't really into it as much as I could have been. But as it was great. I can't be mad at any of this. But it just real clever and pretty funny for what it is and what they decide to do with it. And yeah, that's it. I can't nothing else much to mention other than oh shit, they're doing this again. But the follow-up drama with the wall is very good and again ends on how it ends is like wow, they really do it this way.
You
but
know?
yeah, but yeah, I didn't love it as much as the first. Still funny, still doing its own thing. I can't be mad at it, but it just was. I think it's because I see this joke play out and the aesthetic of the joke plays out so many times, and that I just kind of underwhelmed with it, to be honest. But that's it. Nothing else not other than that.
All right. I understand where you're coming from though, but for me, I enjoyed it just as much, if not more, than the first season. What I
Right.
would say this season does very, very well is just kind of wholeheartedly and just flat out blatantly say, hey, this is what this show is. If you don't like it, fuck you. Basically, that's what it is, right? We going all in on this, Dre. We hitting you with all this humor, though. Some of it will offend you. Some of it will have you in stitches. Some of it will more or less disgust you, especially when they go for like this over the top violence and stuff like that. and that is what Solar Opposites is, right? Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So I would say with this one, it really fully establishes the type of humor, the type of show that it is, right? Of course, yes, it still has a lot of it. You could still see that, yeah, it's still like a Rick and Morty kind of spin-off kind of thing, but not
Right.
exactly. I think they make a greater effort to say no, this is what we do it. We go in real over the top of this one. Um, we cussing more, we showing more sex, we having more
Yeah.
violence, more
Yeah.
blood, all that kind
One
of
thing,
stuff. We just
one
going
thing, yeah,
all
yeah,
in.
one thing that kind of bothered me with this season that they changed Corvo a lot this season, and
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't follow if he had an arc to change that much. I really couldn't follow
Oh
that.
well, yeah, because mainly
I
his
don't
goal
remember
was
him.
yeah, his goal was always about leaving. That was all it was, right? So
Right.
actually, like I think it's the first episode of the season here where they actually meet they actually meet British version of the solar
Right.
opposites themselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the girl, all that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, they actually use the term solar opposites in the season,
Right.
which I would admit kind of fall flat after like you hear the 2 to 4 times. Like they'll
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
the solar opposites are going to London, the solar opposites are going back to
Right.
America, but they just keep using it over and over. It's just like, all right, well, what we get
Yeah.
is the
The
title.
side the side
Okay,
gags, as I said, a lot of these side gags not there. I admit that I probably just didn't pay attention as much as I should have because I find a lot of these side gags was just not there. For me. Like, oh, okay, they're doing this, all right, no problem. But like this joke not that funny. All right, they're doing that, all right, but that joke not that funny. Okay. And it didn't land for me. There is one joke that had been stitches. All I'll say, post-it note. That's all
oh,
I'll
oh,
say.
yeah. I didn't
Oh my
talk about.
god.
They talk about. Yeah.
That had me cracking up, Dread. But they do a lot of great meta humor in that way. Like
They do. They do.
that stuff was good. Like I couldn't be mad at any of that. But
Yeah.
as it was, I was like, it's fine. Like
Yeah.
I didn't love it, but it's fine. It's well.
Right.
It is what
But,
it is.
but yeah, but I know for some people they might find this to be too much of a raunchier version and than Rick and Morty. And I would like
Yeah,
it is raunchy, but appropriately in my opinion. This just like I see, just them going out of the way to prove
yeah,
that we are not Rick and Morty, even though technically
right.
they kind of
I'll
are,
say
right?
another problem is that it moves a little too fast as well. So like jokes just it's sped up a little too much, and
Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah,
yeah, like
that's a good point.
yeah, and the joke didn't have enough time to breathe. Like, look, I know it's a fast show. It's meant to be fast. Rick and Morty's a fast show. This meant to be a fast show, but it was a little too fast, and it just it didn't land for me in my opinion. As like it's had this one good joke where right, so they keep dropping the F bomb right through in the show, right, uncensored, and then in
Yeah.
one bit they did where the character curses and you hear a beep, and people's like,
Yes,
what the hell is
I
that? And
remember
he
that.
spits out
Yeah.
right. But that joke could have breathed a little bit more. I know it's just, I don't know. It's just an argument from comedy time, and I don't know. You don't know otherwise one way or the other. But
No, yeah,
I thought
you're right because
right,
it
right,
shows up unexpectedly there, and you're like, wait, what? And then
right,
it just
right.
goes. You know what I mean? But you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But that
Too
was a good
fast.
joke. Yeah,
It's a good joke. It's a great joke, but it's a little too fast and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that joke could have just land a little, breathe a little more, and then
mm,
you drop the beat now. But
yeah.
I said, um,
But like
well,
but
go ahead. Yeah,
it was like what you said in terms of reference in movies. Like they reference some shows I didn't even like think that they were gonna reference at all though. Like
yeah,
this episode basically like the premise is dumb, but it's basically about how Corvo felt bad about being out of place in this dinner party. So
right.
he put this
Which I thought
bill
was
out
hilarious.
basically
That
yeah
episode
to
was
right
hilarious. Yeah, with the
to
white
ban
buckle.
all dinner parties. That's
Yeah,
everybody
yeah, yeah,
have a dinner party. They literally referencing LA Confidential because well, sorry,
yeah, yeah.
both LA Confidential and The Untouchables. Cause
Right.
watching the style of it, like how the guys dressed in trench coats, they have shotguns. Like this is like how Russell Crowe was in the movie there. But
Right,
then they
right.
play the music from Untouchables, or like a version of it actually. I was like, what?
Yeah,
And even make fun of the whole spinning newspaper bit, you know what I mean? Like you
yeah,
see it
yeah.
shows. That was really funny. But yeah, that episode was hard. Um Even like in the final episode, even reference Matrix Reloaded, Dread, like to the
He was
point where
playing
they
the
legit
music
recreate the music Don Davis did for the
for Bully
fight
Brawl.
scene in
Yeah,
Bully Brawl.
I was
I'm like,
hearing the Bully
what?
Brawl music. Yeah, yeah, I was hearing it. Yeah, same
Like, are
music.
they
Yeah,
really going out of your way to do that? Dread?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the show. That is where they go. And
Yeah,
well,
the
in
same
typical Rick and Morty fashion, they edit off in a kind of a weird, like, oh well, this is where we are. But
yeah.
don't worry, next season, she'll be back to normal, right? But as far as the conceit goes, I wish that they could have continued on the whole where we need to get off of Earth and stuff.
Right.
But
Because
they do
the
touch back on
episode,
the people thing again. But
right.
it was just, it
All
kind
right.
of just like came and went. It was like, well, it
They,
wasn't really anything. So,
yeah, they made
well,
because they made one joke. They made one joke with the world building that was okay, which was, oh, it had a bunch of people who knew ahead of time the
yeah,
planet
that was funny.
destroyed.
Right, right.
That was
Some
I
some
said,
rich
okay,
some rich some
rich, right?
rich aliens, yeah, knew
Yeah, yeah,
beforehand that
right.
the asteroid was gonna hit the planet. There, yeah, that
And they
was cool.
bust
That
out
was cool.
and
Yeah,
they bust out early and they tell the whole thing with that. That was just funny. And then they get the high maintenance dog at the end. It's a good joke.
yeah.
Right.
And well, as you mentioned before, that whole that episode with building the wood, a sort of a
Wood New
forest
York.
version, wood
Yeah.
version of New York.
I
That
thought that
was
was hilarious.
hilarious too. Yeah,
Yeah. Because
they
it's how
reference they
they get caught
reference
up.
uh
Yeah.
they reference stuff like American Psycho,
American Psycho, right?
Goodfellas,
Goodfellas, right?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall,
Right.
right? Right. Yeah, yeah.
But is it Goodfellas stuff with Corwood and had me in stitches, Jen? And then
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
just had this running gang of wolves tracking him down.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. That was flat out hilarious. But what we have to mention the wall stuff, right? And
Right.
here, okay, so what they do basically is that they tell a new story, right? So they show
Yeah.
what
They follow
happened,
up. Right.
with Tim being the ruler now.
Right.
And what they do basically is like how I saw it was like a version of Seven, the movie.
Right.
Even to
Right.
the point that they had, oh, is this Seven? But they flip it around, it's like, no, it's a L. It's like, that was kind of
Right.
clever.
Yeah. 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 Right. 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 I didn't
Yeah,
catch your joke. Yeah. You catch that.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
True.
and it's like, oh, and they had Sterling K. Brown basically be
As
this
he
guy
was.
who
Right.
is
Yeah.
roped in. And
Yeah.
the running gag is that he was one of the writers. I think it was
On
one of the
boats.
writers for Bones.
You're right. Yeah. They had
But
a
he
great
wasn't
joke
like
with that. Yeah. That
a
was
top
funny.
tier writer. He was just
You're
like
right.
in the back
He's like
coming up with
ESC.
ideas.
Yeah. He's like ESC. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And he does get roped into this case because people get murdered in like
Right.
really gruesome ways there. But one of the episodes actually ends with a death scene. It's like, okay, this is some Seven shit. All right, cool, cool,
Right.
cool. But where it led up to basically, well, this is before the second to last episode. I was a little bit let down by because I thought that they would have kind of ended it on a much stronger note. There, it was just like, oh well, this person kind of get away with it, so yeah, sorry. It is what it is, right? It's one of
Right.
those kind of things, right? But yeah, the second to last episode, while it's not as strong as the one from
Last
the
one.
first season
Right.
one,
Yeah.
was solid as well because we
Well,
follow up on
yeah,
on
they leave it.
Tim's
Yeah,
well,
they leave it on a big cliffhanger, which I
yeah,
thought was interesting. But it not as it nowhere near as dramatic as what it was last time because they still had a lot of jokes. They
yeah,
had they had the people help out the girl at the end, a little stuff like that. Though. Like the
yeah,
people,
and
I
you
love that
actually
the
hear
people.
people actually talk for the first time. Well,
Right,
you hear it like ever so often, but here you actually like see a sentence. It's
right.
like, okay, that's
No,
kind of funny.
I love that the people watching all of them.
Yeah, like
But the
he
people
was doing that from season one, which was
right,
fun. Yeah,
but you thought, oh, there's the people watching inside the wall. No, the people was monitoring them inside the yard. Maybe she could the fella sacrifice himself from for she had that whole thing.
yeah,
Right. But yeah,
yeah.
that whole thing was good. I didn't as I said, not as good as it was last week. Sorry, as last season.
Last season, yeah.
But last season
I'll
was
admit, I think it's just because
expected.
because we were seeing this for the first time, we were just
Right,
seeing how
right,
the jokes were played out, how the
right.
characters are bounced off each other, and yes, it's still as weird and goofy and dumb as ever. Like case in point, Yummy Luck still have this obsession with shrinking adults and putting it in his
Yeah,
own collection thing. Jesse still trying to get friends and trying to be cool and all that kind of stuff and feeling, you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
all these things too, you know. They even bring back a character I was looking for, the green Goobler,
You
who
read
is
Google.
this
Yeah.
he shows up as well too and gets his
Yeah.
own story.
The red
Yeah,
Goobler, they do a whole thing with that. But even that joke I felt was a pretty outer character for Corvo. No? Like, okay,
right,
guy doing
exactly. Yeah, there's
little
a
stuff like
particular
that.
moment, not to spoil anything involving
Right.
Cove, but I was like, wait, no. Like I thought Terry was the the bisexual in the group, right? That's
Oh
all
no,
you'll
I
see.
mean, I get it. I get the joke now, but it's like Corvo doing it doesn't make yeah, it should have been Terry. But then again, Corvo and the Grand Goobler is the one that connected, so I get why they had to make the connection. The
Yeah,
writing could have do a little bit of work, a little punching up in that sense. But whatever,
true,
it's fine.
true.
It's still
It just came off a little shock value more than
right.
anything else. A little,
As I, yeah, you're right, exactly.
yeah,
As I say, it's not Rick and Morty, and both of the head leads of this have two better shows in my opinion. For me, at least personally,
right.
is Mike McMahon has Star Trek: The Lower Decks, which I absolutely love,
Uh-huh.
and of course, Royland has Rick and Morty,
Rick
and
and Morty, yeah.
so it's them just working together still. I'm glad that it's a little break because everybody getting voice work and voice acting and people getting work, right? Animation
Yeah,
people getting work. It's fine. It's good. And it's a
yeah.
decent enough product for you to enjoy it. And yeah,
It
so
is.
as it is, as I enjoy it still as it is. Even though it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
I
So
still right, go
yeah,
ahead.
go on. Yeah, all
No,
right.
it's
Well,
still bigger than
that's
season one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Come to think of it, you are right though. Because yeah, it'll be the first time you will see this, you just see how the jokes are, how the characters were. But the season a bit is a bit of the same old same though. So I mean, I wouldn't like yeah, just don't go and expecting this thing to kind of do anything new. But what I would say though, just before we get to rate it, for me personally, I just felt like it just went above and beyond the Call of Duty to just say, hey, this is who we are. This is the type of humor we do in here. You don't like it, you're offended by it. Shut up. This is not for you, right? It's like that. But it still has tons of jokes, tons of humor. Some of which might fly past it because of how quick these episodes run,
Yeah, it's
though.
a little
But yeah,
fast, yeah.
I was entertained throughout. Well, I think it's like the 3 hours or so I was binging this, right? But and yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with season 3. But I do well just 2 things before I get to it. I do hope that they wrap up this thing with the pupa evolving. Like they just really need to kind of get to a particular point where it's like, oh well, okay, we nearing the end of something. Same thing with the wall stuff. Like as much as I enjoy the dramatic, breaks and whatnot, yeah, they kind of have to wrap that story up though. You know what I mean?
Right.
But which I'm really curious to see. And I have a feeling like maybe when the full series come out on Blu-ray or something like that, they're gonna put the whole wall stuff as its own movie. Like I have a feeling they're gonna
It's,
do
it's
that.
basically a three-parter because like 1, 2, 3. And
Yeah, yeah,
they'll just put collected because maybe little snippets throughout the season now. Right, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, other than that though, it's the same old same. But if you've enjoyed it the first time around, yeah, you will enjoy it again with this round here. So for me, like 4 out of 5, man. I thoroughly enjoyed this. So this had me in stitches. It entertained me from episode 1 to episode 8. But I would admit though, yeah, it doesn't really do anything that different or spectacular. Just once again, just going out of its way to say, hey, this is the type of humor we deal with. If you don't like it, yeah, suck salt, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have to say. Final words and reading on season 2 of Solar Opposites.
Yeah, I dug it for it was I forget what my exact rating for season one was, but yeah, this one I'll give it like a 7 out of 10. Um, I didn't love it, but I was still entertained. I was still found it funny. A lot of great bits. The drug war speakeasy episode was pretty funny. I just thought that was so absolutely hilarious with the wine bottles being shit out. Uh,
Yes,
that,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
cracked me
There's
up.
just these dogs and
Yeah,
once again, just what I would say this show really deals though is just like these over the top alien creatures. You know, what I mean, this monstrous creatures like they do that very well. But once again, it's very much like Rick and Morty, but they just amp up on the blood and gore basically, right? But yeah, that stuff with the with the sort of monster dogs who just shit out wine bottles,
you know.
that was weird, but it was hilarious at the same time. Though, I wouldn't lie. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm not. I think because the premise of the joke played out already, they didn't really build on it the way they could have from season one. Like they didn't know how to build from that joke, so they just had that one joke, and now the joke kind of played out, and then they couldn't really build on it in terms of content. But it's still good enough for me to enjoy it as it was.
Oh,
And I
as I see that, right? As I see that, right? Sorry to cut you there.
yeah,
There was an episode where I felt they could have could they touch on the same conceit now, but I felt they could have take it a little bit further. This is where they use they were referencing the lake house, and Corvo kept doing this time travel thing to get Terry to
No, that's good too. That's
to
what for the
actually
episode too.
do
Yeah.
to actually do shit for once in life, right? But remember, they was trying to patch his ship up, but they didn't really do anything beyond that point. It's just they kind of stop it to tell this
Right.
particular to have this particular twist. We're not gonna see where it is, and just kind of forget about the ship. So the ship's still there, but I thought like, oh, they will at least try to leave though, you know what I mean, or something like that. Even in the final episode, I thought they were gonna at least try to leave, to avoid getting killed by the people, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they don't really do that. They just kind of stick them. They just kind of stay on Earth just because of that, you know.
Yeah, that is it. They didn't really do much with it as it is. That's unfortunate. But I dug it for what it is. Yes, I'm out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so that's it. But yeah, folks, I mean, it's if you've been enjoying Solar Opposites, yeah, you'll enjoy the season here. If you haven't started yet, definitely give this a look though. I would say it is very much in the vein of Rick and Morty, but yeah, it's way I would not way over the top, but way enough over the top though to kind of say, no, we're something different. We're something worse, right? For better or for worse. But yeah, definitely check it out though. I don't know when we're gonna get to season 5 it is of Rick and Morty, but for now, yeah, Solar Opposites will do, man. Hey, this is Matthew Bailey, and I hope you've enjoyed this segment of the BS Beats and Bailey podcast. If you'd like to hear the full episode, hit up my link tree. On the other side of my head are 2 videos you can check out. Like this video if you like it, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell as well. Thanks for listening, and until the next one, take care, peace.